The 5-out motion offense is a great tool when it comes to teaching basketball, right? You want your teams to be able to read and react and play in a continuous type of offense, and that is exactly what the 5-out motion offense teaches. It also encourages spacing, which is key if we're looking at modern basketball and how we want our teams to play. We want to be able to space the floor. So a question that I get a lot from coaches is, how would you teach the 5-out motion offense to a team who's never seen it before, a young team, a beginner team? So what we're going to go over today are some drills to teach the 5-out motion offense. Now, if your team isn't a beginner team, then these drills are also good because it also reinforces the 5-out motion offense and elements of the 5-out motion offense to your team that might already know it. So these few drills that we're going to look at today are basically what you want to teach your athletes before you throw the 5-out motion offense at them. Because if you just throw out a 5-out motion offense to them, they're not really going to understand the idea of it, because the whole idea of the 5-out motion offense is to read and react. Whereas if you're just going to throw it out at them, they're still going to play robotic. They're still going to treat the 5-out as if it's a play, which is what we don't want. So let's go over the basics of the 5-out motion offense and what drills we can teach our teams before actually solidifying a 5-out motion offense. Okay, so the first drill that we're going to look at here is a simple pass and cut drill. So what we want to teach our athletes here is to never stand still. We're going to teach them how to cut, which is essential when it comes to the 5-out motion offense. So right here, this is our line with the basketballs, and right here, this is our line of cutters. So what we're going to have first is we're going to teach this line right here how to cut inside and outside of the paint. So we're going to get a little V cut going for the first person line. They're basically going to cut in and they're going to pop out, and then they're going to square up into a triple threat position as they catch the ball from number 1 here in the line. Now what number 1 is going to do after they pass is they're going to cut. So what we want to teach number 1 is you never stand still either. You pass the ball, you should then cut to look for the basketball. You might not always get it back. In this situation, you will, but in a game, you might not always get it back. So number 1 is then going to cut and look for the basketball from number 4. Number 4 is going to pass the ball to number 1. Number 1 is going to then go up for a wide open layup. They're not stopping. They're continuously cutting. Right, we have a wide open layup here for number 1. Now what number 4 is going to do then is follow them to the basket. Right, number 1 goes up for the layup. Number 4 is going to get the rebound, and then they're going to switch lines. So number 1 will then go to the back of this line. Number 4 with the basketball will then go to the back of this line right here. So we're going to have them reset now. Number 4 is in the back of this line. Ball's still here in this line, and now number 1 is going to the back of this one. So now we have number 2 up top here with the basketball, and number 5 is going to be our cutter. So 5 is popping inside and outside of the key, right? They're looking for the basketball. They're receiving it. They're squaring up into a triple threat. Number 2 is cutting and looking for the basketball, and as they receive it, they're going to continue to go up for a layup, and number 5 is going to follow for the rebound. So you can run this drill continuously, right? Eventually, you can end up switching things up a little bit and having the lines that go on this side, right? So now you're working on left-hand layups rather than right-hand layups, right? It is a good drill for, a warm-up. Once your team understands the 5-out motion offense, you can use this as a warm-up drill. Obviously, you want to use this in the beginning to teach, younger age groups how to run a motion offense. It's not overwhelming them. But once your team starts to understand it a little bit, or if your team already understands a motion offense, you can throw this drill at them, for a warm-up drill, because that reinforces that pass and cut, right? We're teaching them how to play, not plays. And even the 5-out, if you teach it too much, it can get a little bit robotic and can turn into a robotic play. It's not what we want. We want to teach them how to play. So using drills like this to reiterate that pass and cut is actually great because, again, it teaches them key elements in terms of how to play. We want to pass, we want to cut to get the ball back, right? So this is a great drill, basic drill, not a whole lot to it, but if we're teaching younger teams how to play the motion offense, this is a great first step. Okay, so the next drill that we are going to go over to teach the 5-out motion offense is named the Spurs drill. And basically, this drill is going to teach the athlete how to move, how to pass, how to cut before we teach the 5-out motion offense. Because obviously, when we teach that 5-out motion offense, our athletes are going to need to know how to cut off the ball, how to move off the ball, how to screen away, how to swing the basketball, right? We want the athletes to understand, the basic concepts of basketball offense, to understand the 5-out. Otherwise, it's going to be too robotic. They're going to treat the 5-out almost like, a set play, which is not what we want, right? You want to teach the 5-out basically so that the athletes can understand how to play basketball and then play a continuous motion offense from that. So with this Spurs drill here, we're going to break it down by using 3 people at a time. So if we have, a gym where, maybe we have more than 3 people and we only have 1 court, that's fine. You can do a pretty consistent rotation here of, subbing players on and off. And, you can use 2 halves of the court as well. But basically, we want to start small here. So we want to start with 3 people instead of 5 so that the athletes can understand this concept of I pass, and then when I get rid of the ball, I cut. I should never stand still and stay in one spot. So that is the whole point of the Spurs drill. So we're going to start with the basketball right here in the hands of number 1. And number 1 is going to feed the ball to either number 2 or number 3. Now, before they do that, we want to teach number 2 and number 3 to get open, right? So they can't really, screen away right now. So their only real options are to cut, because obviously there's no player here and there's no player here because we are working, in a play with or a drill with 3 people. So what we'll usually focus on here is to get the players to V cut to start, because again, even if they flash, somebody else would need to fill in a 5-out offense, and we don't have that right now. So we just want to teach them, the basic concepts of you cut to get open. So we get them to do some sort of V cut in and out of the key, right? As that happens, number 1 is going to make the decision to pass the ball to either number 2 or number 3. And what we're going to teach number 1 is when you pass that ball, you always move. You never stand still. So let's say right now 1 passes the ball to number 2. What we're going to teach number 1 to do then is to cut and look for the basketball, right? They're cutting to the basket, and as they're doing that, they're going to look for the basketball. They're going to have their hands up to receive the basketball. Now, we're not going to have number 2 pass the basketball to number 1 because we want to teach number 1 what to do when they don't receive the basketball, which is continue filling to another side of the floor, continue filling to a new spot. So number 1, they're going to look for the basketball, hands up to receive the pass, but they're just going to continue moving over here. Now, number 1 is now on number 3's side. So what we're going to teach the athlete is that since number 1 filled your spot, number 3, you then move up to number 1 spot. So number 3 moves to number 1 spot, right? So now we're set up again in our Spurs drill. So now we're going to reset the ball over to number 3. And now we're reset. We're going to run the exact same situation all over again. So number 1 cuts in and out. Number 2 cuts in and out, right? Those folks are looking for the basketball. But now we want to switch sides. A rule we want to enforce to the athletes is to never go back to the same side twice. So number 3 is going to feed the ball over to number 1, and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to look for the basketball. They're going to have a target. Can they receive the basketball from number 1? No. So they're going to continue moving, and number 2 is going to fill that spot. Now we're reset again, and we run that same exact situation. So although this might be a little bit repetitive, it's going to teach the athletes to never stand still, and it's going to teach the athletes that when you pass the ball, you cut. It's also going to teach the athletes that if somebody fills your spot on a cut, then you have to go fill the next spot as well. You're never standing still. So it gets their mind moving while also teaching them that, again, they shouldn't stand still. So these concepts are super important when teaching a 5-out. So that's why we want to do this pretty early on in a drill with only 3 people, so that when we teach the 5-out motion offense, the athletes will understand what we're talking about. Now, obviously, we want to spice this up a little bit. We don't want to keep things super repetitive for the athlete. So eventually, we're going to have the coach blow the whistle. And when the coach blows the whistle, that means that the wing will pass the ball back to the cutter when they're cutting and looking for the basketball. So let's run that situation here right now. Right, number 3 and number 1 are both V cutting, right? They're looking to get the ball in the wing. Number 2 is passing the ball to number 3, and then they're cutting to the basket. When the coach blows the whistle, that means that we're finally going to pass the ball back to number two. Number three is going to feed number two for the pass, and then we're going to have number two go up for the layup. So again, this isn't the most entertaining drill in the world, but it does serve a purpose. It's going to teach the athletes, the basic concepts of a 5-out motion offense before we actually teach them the motion offense. What I would recommend here is to have the athletes do this drill at the beginning of every practice for about 2 to 3 weeks before you actually go into teaching the concepts of a motion offense. That way they already understand these concepts well in advance to when you actually teach that motion offense. All right, folks, that is all we have for today's particular topic. If you made it this far into today's lesson, it is greatly appreciated. Now, if you guys could also do me a huge favor and like this video and subscribe to our channel, it would also be greatly appreciated. We are the Online Basketball Academy. My name is Coach Danny, and I continuously upload different basketball plays, basketball systems, basketball tactics, and basketball drills that youth basketball players or training basketball players can use or basketball coaches can use with their players and their teams. Like I said, folks, if you could take the time to like this video and subscribe to our channel so I can continue to make this type of content for you all, that would be greatly appreciated. Till next time, peace out.